Well, it took a minute, but we are finally doing the official top 10 films of 2023 over here at Tsunami Studios. I wanted to take a little bit of time doing it, at the end of December or early January. It didn't feel right. There was movies I still wanted to see that could have snuck onto the list. Some of them did. There's also, just even doing this in general, you're never going to watch everything you want to in a year. So there's films what I would have loved to have seen before I made this list. The Taste of Things, Perfect Days, Lake Chimera, The Zone of Interest. I would have loved to have seen those before I did this. Just because maybe they would have made the list, maybe they wouldn't. But it'd just be nice to have that extra knowledge of that. But I don't know. Doing a top 10 films of the year, it's always stressed me out a little bit. Just because it's like, if you make your list too similar, it doesn't really look like you have an original thought. When everyone's doing these at this time, it's like, oh, there's all the crossover. But if you make it too different, you sound like a contrarian, so it never really comes off as, natural. And, I see some people doing their lists, and it's just like, well, these are the best movies, and these are my favorite, separating the two. I don't get that energy of having to separate the two, the best and your favorite. These are the best because they are my favorite. These are my favorite because they are the best. That's the kind of thing I go into this with. I don't know. When it comes to making a list, I pick the movies that means something to me, where I leave the theater or when I'm done watching them, I'm still thinking about them, where the more I think about them, the more they mean something to me. Just the films that, maybe they're not the best films of the year that people think is a critically exceptional darling or whatever, but just the films that when I'm watching them, I'm feeling something. I'm in the theater pumping my fist, or I'm nodding along, or I'm agreeing, or I'm laughing, or I'm crying. There's a lot of crying on this list. But I realize this is just a channel about me. I'll do my list. That's something to be proud of. A couple of things too. Didn't watch every movie. I know I said that already. I'm going to be doing a list over on my Substack of the best 25 films of the year. So if you want to see some films that maybe aren't on this list, you can go over there and see my brief thoughts on them. I also don't think I reviewed every single movie that is on this list, but I've definitely talked about some on Substack. I've talked about some on other platforms like TikTok and Instagram. So I believe every film that is on my list, I have talked on various places of my social media. But the majority of them, I would say at least 8 out of the 10, I have covered fully on this channel. Maybe 7 of the 10. I don't know. The top 25 you can see in that place. This one you can see here. Also, something I want to do going forward, and I want to do this every year. I've always wanted to do it, is just have my own award show. So this is the top 10. I'm going to say sometime in February, we're going to have the award show for 2023, like an Oscars level show. Not obviously in terms of production, but we'll have those categories. We'll have other categories, and we'll talk more about the year of film in that capacity. But I want to separate it more from that so I can really think about stuff more. But until then, we have a top 10 to do. So I don't have any honorable mentions. You can read my article about them if you want to see my other films, but top 10 films of 2023. We're going to start off with number 10, which is Hot Potato, the story of the Wiggles. I am a big Wiggles fan. I'm not going to deny that in any capacity. I love children's entertainers. I think they are always interesting people to explore. Always having to have that energy is really cool. And this story is not one I really knew about. Just growing up in the Wiggles era, I was familiar with the guys. I watched the DVDs or even the VHSs I've seen. And just knowing this story, these 4 friends who just wanted to teach children and have it in a fun manner where the kids can learn and they can express themselves. So it's really cool to see all the struggles that these guys went through individually and as a group to get to that level, to get to there. It's really interesting. I don't know if it's going to be interesting for everybody, but for me, who just grew up in that era, has always been a fan of these guys, it is so compelling and fun to see. I really liked this documentary. I really like these guys. I would be kidding myself if I didn't put it on the list. It's one of those ones where I watched it very recently, but I'm like, this speaks to me so much, and I have to talk about it. So number 10 is Hot Potato, the story of the Wiggles. At number 9 is Aki Kaurismäki's film, Fallen Leaves. This one I saw in cinemas, just playing at a local theater, not expecting much of it, where I was like, there's some buzz about it, but not much. And I went in not really knowing anything about it. And I walked out just heartbroken and happy at the same time, where this is to me a film that represents 2023. You're watching these two people try to find happiness and solace in each other, while the world around them at large is just kind of like this toxic and destructive place where there's war and there's famine and no one can really find peace, but maybe you can find peace with this person you didn't know you could have it with. It's really beautiful. It's really quiet. It is like 80 minutes long. It is just beautiful and poetic and calming, and it just makes me smile and it makes me cry, and I love just the idea of everything this movie represents. This is a really beautiful love story, and Fallen Leaves is just really good and really worth it. At number 8, we have May December. Watching this one, I really went in just expecting the Charles Melton of it all to really just like wash over me, and it did. He was so good in that performance. But the more I just delved into thinking about it, Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore just delivered so many beautiful moments too. And it's a really quiet and calming story about like this toxic underbelly of this marriage and this relationship, and like what is power control, how do you truly love somebody, what does it mean to be happy, and just like the exploitative nature of that for like television and film, and how we do that and we like, destroy private lives and nobody could truly be themselves because there's always an act being presented. It just kept making me think and making me feel, and I just was like brokenhearted by the performances. Just this actually beautiful and breathtaking film that tried to do something very interesting and told its story in a really cool and compelling way. I think this one rocks. I really dig it. Don Haynes, not my favorite director. When he hits hard. Coming in at number 7 is Kelly Freeman Craig's Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. This one came out early in the year, and I know it's not on everybody's list. Not many people are still talking about it, but my God. My favorite performance of the year is still Rachel McAdams in this movie. Just a breathtaking performance, an intense performance, and just a really fun kind of coming-of-age comedy in a genre we don't get to play with that much anymore. And just seeing this story just naturally progress and grow and have something fun happen. It was really cute. It was a great time at the movies. Every person I know that has seen this has loved it. It makes me smile to no end, and that's just what I want to see. When I'm watching a movie, sometimes you just want to have a good feeling in your heart, and you have beautiful performances. Kathy Bates, again, one of them that's just really fun. Benny Safdie shows up. It's adorable. It's cool. Makes me happy. I really like this one. It's based on a book. Let's give it adapted screenplay. I would give it adapted screenplay. At number 6 is Celine Song's debut film? ? I think it's her debut. Past Lives. I just gravitate to this type of narrative of the star-crossed lovers that can never actually be together. It's one of my favorite tropes. And when you have it in like this beautiful umbrella of like these people have known each other their whole lives, have always been like, oh, they're going to end up together, but you just grow apart, somebody moves away, and you have that connection come back to you years later. It's truly beautiful. It's truly magical. It's quiet. It's destructive, but it's never like just dangerously arrogant in how it's presenting this nature, where it's not about like the love that we have now is the love that we used to have, and that is enough to keep us going. Every lead actor in this, the 3 performances are beautiful. They are staggering, they are powerful, they're deep, and they're just so intense but calm at the same time. It's so interesting to see that. And Greta Lee just breaks you every time. Like, the final minutes of this movie are so intense, they are so gripping. You just walk away feeling like this is a realistic love story. This is a story we can all know, and it's really intimate and beautiful. It looks great. It's a beautiful script. It's the kind of love story you just love to see. At number 5, we have Canada's own Blackberry. I love this movie. This is one of my favorite depictions of just like the obsessive compulsions of nerds just building stuff and creating stuff. Just these guys who love this energy, have this specific feeling in mind. Just, it's so cool to see that. Just like nerds getting shit done and having fun, like, look at the tech side of things. We're literally building an industry, and nobody can really stop us from doing this, and how they crash and burn in this industry they essentially built. It's really fun to see that. The camera moves so loosely and interestingly. It's gorgeous. Glenn Howerton, just great. You know, Jay Baruchel, he's fantastic. You love every second of just these guys getting shit done. It looks so fun. It is so well written. Just having like this section of nerd culture be presented in such like an interesting and dynamic way as opposed to something that's just like stiff and lazy. This is what I want to see. Something I'm fascinated about with actors I like, just taking a chance to be like, we're going to shoot this crazy BlackBerry story and have it be about like nerd culture rising up. It's really cool. It's awesome. Please watch it. Please watch it. It's so fun. At number 4, it's Godzilla -1. I have sung the praises of this movie since day one. I think it's the best Godzilla we've seen in a very long time, taking Godzilla back to what he should be, which is this force of humanity's hubris, destroying it from, you know, our own demise. It's so well crafted, a very intense emotional story that works the same even without the big monstrous threat. It's a very cool story about like a post-war Japan. You love to see that. Very good action, very good cinematography, a very cool movie that I think everyone's finding out is actually something they love, which is just really cool to see. I would have loved to put it higher on the list, but at the end of the day, I think the fact that we have so many great films just holds me back from being like, oh, this is the best of the year. I could have put it at number 1, but I'm just like, is it though, considering how many other great films we have this year? I don't know. I really like Godzilla -1. It's really fun. It's one of the best uses we've seen of the character, probably in decades. At number 3 is Hayao Miyazaki's The Boy and the Heron. Yeah, I had to put it on the list. This movie, I think more than almost any other this year, has really just left an impact on me where I just kept thinking about it. What does it mean? How do we build these things? Beautiful animation, just this sweeping shots of great character design, just this intense, intimate story. It's everything you want from Miyazaki. And then it adds this layer of like this older gentleman essentially passing on the legacy, or like maybe you don't even need to pass on your legacy, you have to build your own. Just using the tools given to you and even doing something different. It's really cool that way. It can get very metatextual, but if not, you're just watching like this beautiful kingdom be disturbed by these birds. And it's so gorgeous. So well crafted. This is the kind of thing I love to see. Very Neil Gaiman-esque, which I love Neil Gaiman. I think this is a really perfect movie. It is so interesting, so creative, and beautiful on every conceivable level. The Boy and the Heron, How Do You Live? It's gorgeous. It's incredible. I want more like it. I don't know if we'll ever see the likes of it again, but that's okay. We could try harder. And number 2 is Oppenheimer from Christopher Nolan. I don't know what else you need me to say about this one. You're talking about arguably one of the most perfect films made of, you know, this decade. Great cast, great script, great effort put into this to tell this harrowing journey of these guys essentially building the device that will destroy us. It's really cool. It's a beautiful cautionary tale. It's perfect. Like, it is so interesting. So well crafted. I got to see it on 70mm. It just makes me so happy to know that I could still do that. Like, we're still doing these things. We're inventing new IMAX cameras for this thing, for God's sakes. Like, it's so cool. It's so awesome. I appreciate this movie so much. And I really struggled thinking this was my number 1. But there's another movie that came out this year that I had to put at number 1 just because of what it represents to me specifically. And that is Wes Anderson's Asteroid City. This one, I think, is one of my favorite film experiences of the year because I saw nothing going into it. I saw maybe one trailer, knew nothing else about it. And what I got was this journey about this playwright and this director and just like it's a movie about the fundamentals of creating a story, and maybe the fact that you want to tell something deep and meaningful doesn't matter compared to like the actual journey people go on when they're invested in your narrative. It's really interesting. It has one of the best creature designs we've seen in years that just left me and my audience just so gobsmacked by what we were seeing. So many incredible performances. It's Wes Anderson doing his thing the best he's ever done it. It's stuff layered upon layers upon layers. It has one of my favorite endings of any movie ever. It's so intense and beautiful. The Margot Robbie and Jason Schwartzman scene still haunts me. I've probably thought about it once a day since I saw this film. It's just perfect costume design, perfect set design, perfect cinematography, perfect directing, all based in like this New Mexico science fiction adjacent story about the fundamentals of building a movie. Like that is so specifically my shit. That is so distinctly my brand that to say it's not number one would be a lie. Like, this is actors that are my favorite actors. A story that is something I'd love to create. A metatextual narrative that is just so perfect for something I truly believe in. You don't have to understand the play to do a good job at making it. You know, I really like that. It's so beautiful. This movie just moves me. It's magical. It's a beautiful, sweeping epic. I love Asteroid City. I think it's one of the best films we've seen in a very long time. And it is my favorite and best and number one film of 2023. So there you go. We'll be back to talk more 2023 movies sometime soon. But until then, what was your favorite movie of the year? What was your worst movie of the year? I'm not going to do a worst video. I'll tell you right now, my least favorite movie I saw this year was Expendables 4. But thank you all for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And of course, I'll catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.